Welcome. So, we'll hope for a very interesting session where there could be good learning for the audience over here. So, we'll dive into the session. Itti, the first question is across for you. When we talk about Unbound AI, it's a confluence of multiple different technologies coming together, right? Whether it be the AI, Gen AI, data, cloud, quantum computing, everything coming together. How do you see this, or how can enterprises adopt this strategically in terms of what can they do to navigate the possibilities of Unbound AI and unleash this in their enterprises?
Hello everyone and good afternoon. I hope we're still awake and thank you Srikant for that question. I'm going to go back to a framework with actually that you also mentioned a very similar framework, and it's kind of inspired by a framework from the government of United Kingdom. When I look at how can organizations bring all of these technologies to play, be it Gen AI, be it data engineering, all of these technologies to play, I look at a three-step approach. So the first step is where you're looking at pure productivity gain. Right? And what do I mean by productivity gain? Well, when Gen AI came to be, I think the first few adopters were software engineering and delivery, where there were a lot more engineers using Gen AI to kind of, as a coding assistant and getting help from Gen AI. And similarly, customer service customer service representatives actually using generative AI. So that's where you're looking at productivity gain. Most of these are internal facing Gen AI tools. The second step is where you look at some kind of narrow use cases which kind of helps the business. Now this is where business collaboration is key. All of these technologies, everything that we do is to drive business value. So identify a few business use cases, align to the North Star, identify the North Star metric, align to the North Star, and then go about implementing these use cases. And then comes the third step. So in the second step, your example could be, personalization at scale, right? So that's something, and I'm from the retail world, it's part of our world, right? So personalization at scale could be one of those things that you go ahead and do. And then finally, the third step is where you look at pure innovation, where all of these technologies actually open up revenue streams. If I'm being honest, and as much as I've chatted with most of you all and even some of the folks in the audience, I know that we've gone ahead on the first use case quite successfully. The first phase where we are getting productivity gains, we're seeing that across the board. The second phase, I can see that more and more POCs are getting converted into large-scale use cases. The third one, I've not as yet seen a lot of examples of that. But that's how I look at it. Those are the kind of strategies that businesses can adopt.
Thank you, Itti, for that. Vinodh, have you seen similar trends, or is there something else that you are seeing in terms of how enterprises can adopt this?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I think my point of view is very similar to Itti's. In my current organization, a lot of what we do has been, we have tasted success in productivity gains more than anything else. Of course, there are some clearly defined business problems that we are currently working on. But from an adoption standpoint, the biggest challenge we are facing is it's primarily a tech-driven agenda as opposed to a business-driven agenda. So I wouldn't call it lack of sponsorship, but then businesses got excited with this whole generative AI wave. But then there are questions where, hey, tell me what should we do from a generative AI standpoint. It's not necessarily solving for a business problem. It's jumping on the Gen AI bandwagon, right? That was pretty much what the business leaders primarily were interested in. So I think we have a chief AI officer in our panel. So my recommendation from an enterprise adoption is more of such roles. We need one neck to choke at the top, and that person absolutely has to own the AI agenda for the enterprise. Right now, I feel distributed ownership in many companies, and that is kind of slowing us down.
Thank you, Vinodh. And I think that lets us go to Prasad. Prasad, being the Chief AI Officer, how do you basically convince your business leaders in terms of the value that AI brings, not just about the productivity, but even from an operational and strategic perspective?
Yeah. Thanks, Srikant. Hello, everyone. So a bit about Ascend before I get started. Ascend is a private equity-backed accounting platform. So we acquire accounting firms in the US, mid-market accounting firms in the US. And the value proposition to those companies we acquire is quite simple. We go after companies that have strong leadership, a great culture. And the promise is that they can now, as part of Ascend, have access to resources that they wouldn't have if they didn't have, they weren't part of Ascend. So they can stay independent while innovating within Ascend and having access to all the innovation. So that's where the Chief AI Officer role was created. There's a funny story behind it. My title was actually the Chief Product and Technology Officer. And on the first day, our CEO basically changed it because it looked cooler. But I think there is a little bit of value in that. It's if you take a product mentality, you work backwards from the customers. You look at the use cases. I like the framework that Itti introduced. I internalized it in a simpler way. The first stage is about taking the tasks that you're already doing and doing them more efficiently. That's productivity gains. The second is you look at the services or the products you're offering and you do them in a different way with AI. So that's the second stage. And the third is you offer entirely new things because of AI. And all these three things will have different levels of ROI. And when you ask me, how do you convince your leadership about where to invest in AI? If you're ROI driven, if you work back from the actual customers, who may be your internal users, external users, you are bound to come up with opportunities. And there's ton of opportunities in accounting, we'll talk about it. But you're bound to come up with opportunities that make real sense for investment. We just presented the entire AI business case to the Ascend board. And we got, I can't disclose the exact amount, but we got a ton of investment into building this because there is such an opportunity to transform the accounting industry with AI.
Thank you, Prasad, for the insight. Ganesh, in an organization like Continental, right, so with diverse different businesses, how do you navigate this AI? Because the applicability of or the metrics that you would use would differ based on the business divisions. So how do you navigate this challenge?
Yeah. I think our co-panelists also talked about some of these measures. I mean, coming from an automotive world, we actually are at this moment trying to solve a problem of trying to bring human intelligence, human-like intelligence into the automotive world. This is one of those big bang topics which, I think every industry will have some of them, right? Which AI can actually solve or can only enable, right? So one of the topic that is around the human-like intelligence. The other is around how do we bring that also talked about it, the natural language processing, how do we bring to the end consumers all around the world. These are some of the, on the face kind of big bang topics around which the company can organize themselves. They can leverage these problem statements to spread the Gen AI or the AI into the organization itself. But then again, some of the common threads are for every division, every organization, I think, focusing on cause that I talked about it as well. R&D efficiency gains, I think, are for every management, every leader. This will be a target as well. How do we actually bring this in this context of sitting in Bangalore, sitting in India? What scale can we bring this, right? I think this is a unique opportunity as well. That's what we are also trying to pitch from Bangalore Center. The third element, how do we went about it is as well, how do we move this AI away from just the few, the slogans, the titles, some big use cases, but to bring to the team members, right? Because that is where I think a lot of ideas can come up, a lot of grassroots initiatives not just limit it to the AI center, which I'm pretty sure every CXO has it in their own organization, but also bring it to the team members. So create a community of practitioners, because that is when a lot more ideas will come. I think this whole top-down approach, but along with that, I think the unique opportunity to bring this ingenuity of Indians and ability to bend the time and space what we can do when we are passionate, right, on a topic. And this can be done when you have a community of practitioners. I mean, these are the three things we are just pushing inside the organization as well, which can cut across the organization, the various disciplines and the business, verticals.
Sure, thank you. And do you see that the decisions are getting taken at India level, or do you still depend upon the global teams to drive the decisions on which programs to adopt for AI?
I think it's both. It depends on maybe the scale of the decision. The small scale decisions, definitely, I think we have the free hand to drive the agenda from India. And to, I think, Datta's point earlier, in 5 years from now, it's all about the ownership, right? So we are going towards that, but I would say there is still a heavy push from our parent location in terms of prioritizing the agenda.
Sure. Vinodh, what are the use cases that you are seeing which is driving the next generation of business growth and innovation within the organization?
Personally, for me, the use cases that we have been able to successfully deliver, they've all been in the productivity space so far. But that's still driving growth for the organization. And I can take an example. So I represent a company called Neiman Marcus. Neiman Marcus is a luxury fashion retailer in the US. And just a small statistic is 40% of our revenue comes from 2% of our customers. So it's a very niche space, and our clientele is extremely high net worth individuals. So it's a relationship-based business. So it's all about customer experience for us. So one of the most successful use cases that we've been able to drive from India is leveraging generative AI for our contact centers. And there we are able to provide real-time analytics or near real-time analytics for the contact center managers in terms of agent performance, in terms of what is the sentiment of the call, what is the emotion, was the call resolved or not, right? A lot of insights. And if it's a very difficult conversation, it gives the manager the opportunity to intervene right during the call, right? So it's what we call agent assist AI, and we've been able to successfully deliver that. What we've also been able to do is eliminate a lot of inefficiencies in the process. So the agents used to take a lot of notes during the call, and they would have to summarize the call at the end of every conversation. We've kind of completely automated that. And we've saved about 15 seconds for every call. That number might sound very small, but we get millions of calls in a year. So it's the economies of scale that we are talking about here. So that's how we have been able to drive productivity. And we are moving to, from an agent assist to kind of completely replacing the agent. We've created an agent avatar, and that acts very much like a human and is able to provide a lot of resolution. In fact, we have a cool video, I don't have it here, but where a customer calls the contact center, they're absolutely upset that they've not received the order. They had ordered a nice, beautiful dress for their wife. The birthday is tomorrow, they still haven't received it. And they're actually interacting with this avatar, the agent that we created. And that's able to kind of calm down the customer, while the agent says that we'll still not be able to deliver it, but it provides an alternative. Hey, there is a store right next to where you live. If you're able to kind of go to that store, I see that this product is available. I can even give you a $50 gift card to top it, and that's how the customer is kind of, I wouldn't say pacified, but provides a great customer experience. I you know, when I saw that video for the first time, I was surprised that it's even an AI. My experience interacting with bots have not been very, you know, not a pleasant experience. But this is like clearly where customer service is headed. So from an agent assist to kind of completely taking over the agent's job, I know it sounds scary, but it is happening.
Wonderful. That was a great example, Vinodh. Ganesh, what sort of use cases are you seeing in the automotive industry?
Yeah, being part of the automotive industry now, there is a big transformation going on where, you know, your vehicle or the car is becoming like an IoT device. That means a lot of software is coming there as well. This also, for last 10, 15 years, we are trying to bring this human-like intelligence or this automated driving everybody would have heard of. I hope everyone today is also driving a vehicle which has a bit of AI in it. If it can do this level 2 ADAS, believe me, it has AI in it because it's one part of the AI which is called as computer vision, right? Now, how do we move towards the highest level of automation? This is our passion program. Also, this is a business case for us. So for us in this exercise, the traditional AI is a big part of our story. Then coming to the Gen AI perspective itself, one of the big use cases is natural language processing. We are not the experts in this, so we partnered, right? So we partnered with Google Cloud. Already this will be available in next year. Partnership started in 2023 or so. So I think this whole idea that everything we can do is not the right style. I think partnering could be the strategic differentiator for us as well, and that's what we are actually doing. And internally looking for our own engineering, our own capabilities, we have this mandate that if you write a code today, it should be available in the car within 1 day. Completely full validation of automotive standards, right? And we are pushing towards that. And for that, our partner is AWS, and our center as well hugely contributes to this exercise. And just imagine, when I say this, you have to validate with the data of 1 to 2 petabytes. It has to run, the simulations have to run for every small change, and then it has to go do a real-time test on some test vehicles on the ground, and then deploy, right? But this is possible. This scale is available now and also possible. These are some of the kind of use cases we are trying to solve. But then again, one common use case for every one of us is also around R&D costing. How do we cut down through Gen AI? So there is also a rallying cry. Can we look at 10 to 20% of R&D saving or R&D effort reduction through this? This is also something everybody is trying out inside the organization.
Thanks, Ganesh. We are also seeing a lot of hype around the reasoning power of generative AI, right? We have models coming for that. Now, do you see, Itti, for example, do you see the applicability of generative AI in, say, forecasting models rather than just leveraging on traditional AI models? Or do you see other use cases where the reasoning power along with predictive AI adds greater business value?
So I do come from the school of thought that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So if something is working well, and if like you're talking about forecasting, right? If something is working well, I'm definitely of that point of view. It's fine, let it run. I do recommend experimentation to see if it can beat whatever we have today, but what's working, let's continue with that. Because again, just coming back to the conversation, it is about the limitless capabilities of AI. And AI is not just generative AI, right? There is a whole gamut that already exists, and I think that's something that we just need to keep in mind. I know there's a lot of hype around generative AI, which is awesome because it's opened up conversations that didn't happen before. And on that note, that's why I think one of the things that we're also doing is a lot more education across the board so that we can explain to the larger group what AI can do. Right? While generative AI is open doors, we are now taking that as an opportunity to step in and also talk about what else AI can do. And that has definitely changed the conversation that we have with our business users.
Great, thank you. Prasad, especially in the financial industry, right? So there is a lot of sensitive data out there. And when you are implementing the use cases for AI, right, how are you also incorporating the security and the responsible AI principles?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Medical data and financial data are two pieces of information that you don't even share with your closest friends. So security is super important. And believe it or not, most of the use cases that we are seeing in the accounting space have very little to do with the actual financial data itself. They have a lot to do with all of the admin work that goes into getting to the point where you're actually using your financial knowledge. Having said that, there is a number of, I think it's an approach that you have to take right from the beginning, that one of your core tenets of your development is going to be the data security. So it has to be part of your software development tenets, then it has to be part of your infrastructure tenets, then it also has to be part of your vendor agreement tenets, so that you ensure data security and privacy at all levels. Having said that, I think there is some common sense stuff you can do. You can ensure that your actual data infrastructure layer, there is a layer where you remove all of the personally identifiable information and then use machine learning and AI on top of it, which can have additional guardrails in it. But, yeah.
Thank you. Again, Prasad, the question again is to you, right? So we spoke a lot about the use cases that have been adopted, but we still see, Itti mentioned this, right? So the first layer of productivity improvements done, but the second and third layer, which starts going into operations and the revenue, we are still seeing a lot of POCs, right? And very often, I would say 80% of these POCs stop at the POC stage and don't go further beyond that. What can the leaders do to take the POCs into production? How can they realize value out of it? Is there a process? Is there a structure that they can bring in?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I've been thinking about it for a while too. Ever since AI came, there is this tendency for leaders who are sitting here to ask for innovation from a top-down perspective. You have this intuition that AI is going to help your business, and you impose down to the level of use cases. And I think that's where it is the incorrect thing to do. The right thing to do is actually inspire the teams to look at AI, but democratize the actual discovery of the use cases. So you go from a project management mentality to a product management mentality, where you look at the use cases, you look at the ROI, and let them come up organically. So the actual users facing problems and solving them with AI, then adoption is not a problem because you're solving real problems. The problem comes when you've thought about some use cases for AI from the C level, and that you're imposing them onto the organization. So if you flip the model a little bit and let the innovation come organically, build the culture of innovation from the ground up, I would say that your barriers to adoption, barriers to deployment will be much lower.
The barrier to adoption, often we see there is also the data itself is not available in a manner that AI can run on top of it, right? Itti, we spoke about it earlier. How do you overcome this challenge, right? Data is not available, data is not structured. So is there first a need for a data engineering before we get into AI?
Sorry, I couldn't.
So question is, if the data is not available in a structured format for the AI ML engines to run, what should the organizations do first?
I'm going to keep it short. Data is the foundation of whatever it is that you're trying to do. Data is the foundation, and yes, you have to fix data engineering. Structured, unstructured, whatever, right? You have to fix that foundation. That's why some of your POCs and the choice of POCs should also depend on what data you have available, right? That's going to prove, I would say, you know, fail fast, and then that tells you more.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Last question, maybe Ganesh. How can technology providers build capabilities in Unbound AI, right, so that they can work collaboratively with the other enterprises and GCCs?
I think that also brought up, right? I think every GCC is also aspiring to move up the value chain, right? This also, I mean, most of the collaboration what we have so far, the technology providers, is globally mandated with AWS, with the Google Cloud and stuff like that. That too focused on very few specific use cases. I think we can move past that when we can collaborate inside, you know, ecosystem like this, with an industry forum like this. I think the opportunities open up. A lot of these experiments keep happening. I think every one of us is aspiring to move up the value chain in terms of innovation, bringing new products, right? I think that opens up a nice platform. But then again, I think it's a two-way street. I'm pretty sure GCCs will also reach out, but also the other side, right? The technology providers can also make this pitch and, you know, continuously engage. I'm pretty sure there are enough use cases that we can solve from this ecosystem and solve the global problems. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Because of